Urban areas like Metro Atlanta attract denser housing types. Rental housing is an immensely profitable financial asset, particularly in a state like Georgia that lacks tenant protection or even a set of minimum maintenance standards for housing. As you can imagine, the impact of indoor air pollution is more severe when you have more people living in smaller spaces. Let's go back to the pesticide example. Denser housing types have a greater demand for pest control and thus a greater use of pesticides and greater risk of exposure to harmful pollutants in the home. Across Metro Atlanta, new multifamily housing developments are being erected at a variety of price points. At the same time, though, Metro Atlanta is also home to some of the worst maintained rental communities in the state, as described in the recent Atlanta Journal-Constitution series, Dangerous Dwellings. Next time you ride past new construction, ask yourself, are we building the slums of tomorrow today?
So Metro Atlanta, particularly in the city's outlying suburbs, has become the locus for corporate investment into single-family rental properties across the entire United States. Since the foreclosure crisis a decade and a half ago, Wall Street investment firms have been buying up single-family homes around the country at an unprecedented scale. As of 2020, these institutional investors owned at least 43,000 single-family homes across the Atlanta metro and nearly 300,000 nationwide. This means that somewhere close to 15% of the total nationwide market in institutionally owned single-family rentals is located right here in Atlanta. And these corporate landlords aren't slowing down either. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Metro Atlanta has continued to lead the nation in the percentage of homes sold to these institutional investors, with the numbers regularly topping 30 to 40% of all single-family home sales during the last couple of years. While the ever-increasing cost of housing is a multifaceted phenomenon, the ability of this small number of firms to both set prices for rentals and outbid potential home buyers has been one of the key factors driving these ballooning costs here in Atlanta and in other places around the country.
Atlanta is one of the fastest growing metro areas in the United States. The population growth is accompanied with growth in housing demand, including speculation and housing costs. Urban renewal projects and developments also accelerated this process in many parts of the metro area, causing gentrification and displacement of low-income residents. The construction of Beltline and new apartment complexes along the Beltline is a prime example and contributed to the skyrocketing rents in adjacent neighborhoods. To mitigate the effects of the Beltline and West Side on housing affordability, Atlanta adopted inclusive zoning in 2020 to provide affordable housing in multifamily rental developments with 10 or more units in these districts. Compared to London, the inclusive zoning program in Atlanta is much more limited in scale and geographical coverage, and its effects on housing affordability in these neighborhoods remain to be seen.
The demise of industrialization and the rise of the information age left Atlanta's black working classes and poor drowning in unemployment. Reaganomics eviscerated Atlanta's black communities on issues of education and fair housing, while the emergence of crack cocaine, produced by a war on drugs, a war on black and brown people, and diverted funds from education to this cause. Thus, the prison industrial complex and the militarization of the police reached new heights. Examples of this include turf wars between the Miami Boys and the Atlanta Players over crack cocaine and the subsequent creation of the Red Dog Police. The arrival of AIDS crippled black communities where Atlanta's black populations garnered some of the highest rates of HIV/AIDS in the world. Thus, Atlanta's Olympic movement, disguised as progress steeped in Dr. King's dream, on steroids, was seen as a movement to further criminalize, demonize, disfranchise, and displace Atlanta's black indigenous at record levels. One cannot help but to contemplate how Dr. King would respond to the public's angst toward the city's black administration and Atlanta's black masses during these episodes, and one of these includes housing.
So the Rockdale County and Clayton County projects work in areas of Metro Atlanta that are experiencing profound demographic and sociological changes. They have historic issues of poverty and lack resources in area outside of Atlanta City proper, combined with new pressures from the gentrification of the city of Atlanta that we've been experiencing over the last several decades. And this has forced people further and further from what we consider the traditional urban core. And what that plays out as is a few years ago, there was some work done that estimated that social service agencies in Atlanta receive about $65 for every $1.73 that agencies in the suburbs receive. This creates a massive disparity in both the presence of local service agencies, local non-governmental organizations in the larger metro area, and the ability of the agencies that exist there to actually offer comprehensive and sustainable services. When you combine this with what we call the retreat of the state, so in sociology, we refer to the pullback of direct government support agencies and funding. This creates unique areas of the metro area where there is a severe mismatch between the need and capacity to address housing and associated issues. One way to sort of understand this is the ability to access legal help. In the 5 core counties of Atlanta, there is Atlanta Legal Aid, as well as other organizations like Atlanta Volunteers Lawyers Foundation. These provide free or reduced legal support for persons, and that includes questions of housing and eviction. Outside of those 4 counties, there is only one organization in the state of Georgia that offers that service, the Georgia Legal Services Providers, who often have one attorney for every 3 to 4 counties. So one attorney travels between these several counties that they're responsible for, and they may be in the first county on Monday, the second county on Tuesday, the third county on Wednesday, as an example. This means that when you need help for any legal service, but in particular in the context of housing, which is a very fast process. In the state of Georgia, this can be as short as 1 to 2 weeks in the turnaround between the summons, the going to the court, and actually having to respond. Your ability to catch that attorney on a particular day, have them help you address that, is very limited. And they try really hard, but they just aren't there. The resources aren't there that you can walk down to any place and get legal assistance because you need it. Because it literally just does not exist in some of these spaces.